Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another webinar series here with Net at Work. Today, we're going to look at how to generate financial statements in Sage 300. And I am very happy to have with me Vicki Bridges from Net at Work, and she's one of our senior consultants, very well versed in financial statements. So she's going to take us through some stuff with financials. My name is Sean Fleming. I'm a senior solution engineer here with Net at Work, focusing on Sage 300. And so we will be your both presenters today and take you through the content today. A little bit of housekeeping first. Anticipate this will roughly take about 45 minutes to an hour, depending on the number of questions and interaction that we have. As you've noticed, the phone lines are muted, so if you've got questions, feel free to type them into the question box. If you've got other issues, you can use the chat box as well. That's located in the GoToWebinar panel. So by all means, send us those questions that you have them. I'll try to infuse them into the presentation as I see them come through. So make sure that you don't, let any of your questions go unanswered. Make sure that you reach out and interact with us using the question box. So with that being said, let's jump into a little bit of content. So our goal at Net at Work is to really help unleash the potential of your business through the power of technology. And we do that in a number of ways. Obviously, we're going to focus on financial statements today, but we'd be doing our job. But if we didn't talk with companies about other challenges that are out there, we know that they're real. We know that remote connectivity is an issue. We know that CRM is an issue. We know that document management and HR is an issue. We're going to look at BI and analytical reporting today. And so all of these things that you see in the blue spheres are really typical pain points or areas of opportunity for organizations to help overcome through technology. So reach out to us if you've got challenges in any of these areas. You're looking at looking to evaluate at any of these vendors in the inside sphere. We've definitely got experts in all of these areas. So feel free to reach out to us. Again, we're here to help you unleash the power of your business through technology. So with all of our sessions, we always do a quick poll, and today I've got a couple of quick poll questions for you, so I'm going to quickly start that today. And so the topic of the day is financial statements. So it's important for us to understand how you're doing financial statements today. So I'm going to quickly launch that poll and let you answer that question. So we're starting to see some of the numbers trickle in here. Vicki, we've got some that are doing just manual with a trial balance. We've got some that are doing FR. We've got some that are using Sage Intelligence. Those seem to be dominating the poll so far. I got about just under 50% in, so I'll give it another minute for people to respond to that. All right, so we've got 22% manual via trial balance, 33% through FR, and they're changing a little bit here, but I got 50% in Sage Intelligence. So I get 20, 30, and 50 at this point. So I'm going to go ahead and close that one out. And then I'll ask the next one is really what we find with financial statements is more around training than anything else, is that the tool is there, but you're not really quite sure how to use it. And so that's what we're going to dedicate to today. But if there's some follow-up stuff that is needed, then we can work with you to make sure that you've got everything you need to make sure that you're producing the financials the way that you want to. And so far I've got just over 35% of the vote in, so I'll give it another second or two. So 75% yes, yes, more training is needed. 25% no, and I'm disappointed nobody's a rock star today. So we'll see if anybody answers that way. You got to infuse a little bit of fun into these as we go through them. So I'm going to go ahead and say it's 78% yes, we want more training, and 22% no. And I guess everybody's here to learn a little bit more, so nobody's yet a rock star today. So I'm going to go ahead and close that poll out and move on to our next slide. And we'll get right into it. So the agenda today, we want to look at financial statements in FR. What does that look like? And, that's a percentage of you are doing it this way. what's involved when converting from FR to Sage Intelligence? So we've worked really hard to move a lot of our clients from FR to Sage Intelligence, and the key reason for that is at some point Microsoft is going to drop support for a 16-bit application. That is what FR is built off. It is a 16-bit platform, and as soon as Microsoft drops support for that, we will just kind of have our hands tied. We won't be able to help you with that any longer. So once that happens, then really the next alternative is Sage Intelligence. Sage Intelligence gives you a number of additional advantages over FR. The user experience is easier. The ability to distribute financial reports is easier. And then it doesn't just do financial statements. It does much more than that. So we'll spend a good chunk of our time today looking at Sage Intelligence and the different options that we've got with Sage Intelligence. What kind of comes out of the box using the task pane. I'll go through the layout generator. And then I want to introduce you to a couple of products, Sage Enterprise Intelligence. What has it got from financial statements out of the box? And then time permitting, I may even show you something from DataSelf that's they've got a new offering for producing financial statements via a browser. So with that being said, let's go and hop right into it. I'm going to go ahead and pass this over to Vicky here. And Vicky, you'll see here, I'll give you control. There you go. Let's go take a live look at financial statements in Sage 300.
Okay, Sean, you can see my screen?
I can, thank you.
Okay. Hi everyone, I'm Vicky Bridges. Like Sean said, I'm a senior consultant with Net at Work, and my favorite thing to do is write financial statements, which tells you what kind of geek I am, I guess. So we're gonna start out talking about FR and converting your FR statements over to Sage Intelligence. We've done quite a bit of this at Net at Work, and it can be depending on your statements, it can be you know, a little time consuming, but the end result is usually a report that is much more flexible and easier for you to run. We've typically had clients go from running 4 or 5 FR reports and having to rerun them to get additional data into being able to run a single Sage Intelligence report that gives them all of the data that they're looking for. We can also do, you know, with Sage Intelligence, we can also do really easily consolidations with the connector module that allows you to, you know, if you have multiple companies that you need to do report consolidations on, you can define the companies that you want to pull into there, and then and run the reports, and it will, you know, put all the data into a single report without you having to copy and paste and you know, use Excel formulas to add things together. So that just makes things a lot easier once you've gotten that moved over. And then the other thing that Sean mentioned is the distribution of financial statements. And so there is built-in distribution. You can email reports, you can email sheets, you can save reports out to your network, can turn them into PDFs for your board, kind of whatever you need to do straight from your Sage Intelligence report. And so I'm going to go ahead and open the report manager. So in Sage Intelligence, you do have report viewer, report manager, connector, and these 3 items sort of combined together give you a variety of options. The report manager allows you to design reports and distribute them. The report viewer allows users just to run the report. They can't make changes to them, but they can go in and run them. And then the connector module allows you to do consolidations, so you can define the consolidations, and then it also allows you to create connections to other tables in your database so that you can create ad hoc reports. But in the report manager, your Sage Intelligence comes with a host of standard forms, reports, and you can, if you haven't used Sage Intelligence a lot, you can go in to some of these, to these folders and run the reports. And they'll give you some examples of what their, what a report looks like, how you can design them. The financial report designer, when you run that, gives you a nice big blank report to start working with. That's if you want to give it a go yourself, that's one option. I'm going to run an example of one of the pre-defined reports. And I'm essentially just, clicking on the report. I click run. I click the ellipses to select my financial years. My demo data has data for 2019 and 2020. If you have 5 years, you can create your reports to pull 5 years. If you just want to pull a single year, you can pull a single year. So you have a lot of flexibility on the data that you can get. Sage Intelligence will pull all of the transactions for a given year. So it's not just pulling a single month, it's pulling, whatever data that you have posted out in your general ledger. So the Sage Intelligence reports are templates. They're built in Excel. This would be, for those of you who are familiar with FR and not Sage Intelligence, this would be fairly similar to your FR templates, but a lot more flexible and more user-friendly. So the formulas are very easy to use. The generation of reports is very simple. So this is a sample. This is a sample financial statement that comes with your Sage Intelligence, and they have examples of balance sheets and income statements, and these are pulling off of the account groups. You can create these to pull from account numbers, which I'll show you momentarily. It's very easy to create these if you just add a sheet, and we'll get some of the basic data. And I can go in and no, just skip nothing. I can go in and drag all my accounts in from my list in the task pane, and I can take this data and create my reports from that, just depending on what I need to do. So if I want to see my opening balance, I'll just I'll drag in the formula from the task pane for the opening balance, and I can go in there, and this is just like using regular Excel formulas. You'll get the function arguments that will help you point to the data that you need, and you can click on them. Okay. I'm just going to copy that down, and I've grabbed all of my opening balances for all of my accounts. So that's a pretty straightforward, you know, add in, and then you can continue to do that with there's various formulas that you can use, so you can continue to add in different information. So you can do actuals, budgets, you know, and then you can harness Excel, the power of Excel to, you know, do your formatting and, you know, add in, you know, do your adding up, you know, do your sum your totals and things like that. So it works, you know, if you can use Excel, you can create these reports. So that's a real simple setup. There's other ways to create reports. You can get really fancy with them. I'm going to run one of my other reports. This is a template that I've built over time that just has a lot of Excel functionality built into it, where I've taken formulas in Excel and the functionality and kind of really made easy to use financial statements. So in this report, it comes up to a report parameter screen where it has your fiscal year information in it. You can click on the period and just change that. It will dynamically change the dates here, and then this data pushes out to all of the tabs in the report. I also have a report table of contents here, so I can easily just click to my summary trial balance. My demo data has a lot of 0 rows. So I've built in a button to hide all the 0 rows. So you can just click on that, it'll prompt yes. And this is something that I've added into these reports, just a Excel macro that will hide all the 0 rows. And I can hide the columns if I didn't want to see them. We have formulas up above each column that will dynamically set the period based on the period that you've defined in your report parameter, and push that across to all of our columns, so that if I want to run through period 3, then I have period 1, 2, and 3 only showing, and the rest of them, where if I may have a partial month, doesn't show data. And that's just simple Excel functionality. It's just a really basic if statement on the period. If I want to show the 0 rows, I can just click my button to show 0 rows, and it will go back through and open up all of my rows. In this report, this company also has departments. And so you have the ability to do departmental financials with Sage Intelligence, and it's quite easy. That's done through a tree functionality, and you set that up in the task pane under trees, and you can tell it to. We've got this one set up to show the divisions and the breakout of each of the divisions. So if I want to, I've added a drop down. This is just Excel functionality. I've added a drop down in here where I can go and pick a different department, and it will adjust my my amounts based on the data that's in that department. If I have where I have, then I can use my hide zero row functionality to see only the data that's available for that department. And then I can very quickly show my zero rows again and change my department to another department. So I can look at departmental data on the fly based on how we've built this report. Other functionality is just pulling the dates from the report parameter screen, and I've done a 12-month rolling trial balance example. So that starts with the period that you've requested on the report parameters tab, and then subtracts a period for 12 months. It gives you the dates. It's dynamic down here. So if I were to go back to my report parameter screen and change my period to 2, then it would dynamically change my starting period for my rolling trial balance. I tell people, I tell customers when I do training with them, if you can do it in Excel, you can do it with this template. And there's no limit other than just kind of your imagination on what you want, what kind of data you want to provide. We do have a sample of a basic balance sheet. Again, this has the hide zero row functionality in it. So I've got all my accounts in my balance sheet. I don't want to print the 0 rows, so I hide them. And now when I go to print, I've got a 2-page balance sheet instead of having all the empty rows in there. So there's a lot that you can do. I also have an income statement where I've done budgets and variance percentages. So there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot that you can do in here.
Vicki, there's a question that's come in. So I keep missing how to get different things in the task pane, like formulas or trees. So do you want to just kind of highlight
Sure.
that functionality that's there?
Sure. So with Sage Intelligence, you have an add-in for the task pane, and you can, if it doesn't come up on your screen, you can go to the add-ins tab and choose Report Designer Add-in, Show Task Pane. And you can navigate through the task pane. It will show up over on the side of your screen, and you just click the grayed out option. So for layouts or lists, the lists menu gives you your accounts. If you have currency, that will be in there. If you needed your account structure or groups or any other basic information about your general ledger accounts and structure, that would come from the list menu. And again, you just, once you're in there, if you want to look at all of your accounts, you can just click on the accounts and just drag them right on over into a sheet. And then that will give you your entire chart of accounts. The other option that you have, we'll look at like the account structures, account groups. Just drag and drop them right into your sheet, and then you can copy and paste these into other sheets. Use them, however you need to use them. The formulas are the other main option that you'll use in the task pane. And again, you just click on those and drop them into a cell. Once you have that formula in a cell, then you can click on the formula, the insert function Excel option, and then that will bring up your function arguments so that you can then point to where your account is, your company, year, and there's a variety of filtering information that you can have in here. I hope that helps. Does that
It did for me, but Gwen, if you've got more questions on that, follow up with another question, please. So yeah, let's keep going.
Okay. So we'll take a quick look at a tree, the actual setup for a tree. So I just went to trees and manage, and I'm going to edit the tree that I already have set up. And so if you have departments or divisions or regions or any units that you need, any financial units that you need to report on, you can, set up in your general ledger. We can set up a tree that will pull in the general ledger data as you so you can set up account filters for that. And so in this tree, it has division 100, and my account mask is the account number -100. And then underneath that, you can have the various divisions, and then they're sort of pulled up underneath the main division, and so that's a roll up. So if I look down in the preview, if I'm on just the main division 100, it shows me all of my accounts that are that have a 100 because I've rolled them up from underneath. And so I can report at an overall company level, or I can report at a high level on the division with a roll up of all of my divisions, or I can pick a separate division to report on. And in this particular report, we've pulled out the tree, the department tree, and we've used that in a drop down so that I can just go and pick, general or northern, and then that will give me the financial data for that particular department. This is don't let this be intimidating. It is this is Excel, and Net at Work can certainly help you with building reports like this that are easy to navigate and easy to change information on. One of the other things that I want to show you is that since I ran this for 2 years, I can change my year in my report parameters tab, and it will change my year and my dates down in the body of this. And then when I go to look at my reports, I now have 2019 data. And so I've just run a report. I've run one report that I can have multiple years and months of data on. So this allows you to do comparisons between the years, allows you to do budgets, anything that you can think of. And like I said, you can have as many years as you have data. Although for some of you that report might be very large, so we would want to make sure you limited that. The other, let's talk about distribution. The Sage Intelligence has a built-in BI tool that allows you to generate these financial statements out to email straight from the sheet, or you can save it out to a place on your network or SharePoint. It's very easy to set up. If we just go into the BI tools and choose manage instructions, we can add an instruction, and let's test. And if I want to email, I can just click the enable email, put in, and I have to I can spell my name. I'm sorry, my keyboard's so loud. We can put in a subject. I can also put in a date. So I can use cell references that will automatically, I can pull a date from my report and put that into the my subject line or into the body of my email. And then I can click preview cell references, and so I can see the subject, test financials on 2/28/2019. And so that will be dynamic with whatever date that you have or whatever cell that you're picking from. I can set a file name. I can choose from here to convert each worksheet to static values. So it will take the formulas out and put just numbers in. So if you're sending it outside of your organization to folks who don't have Sage Intelligence built into their Excel, then you can change your worksheet to static values, and they'll just get numbers instead of the Sage Intelligence formulas. Then you can also choose to distribute each worksheet as a separate document. And so if within this document you had departmentals, you could choose to, if you check this box, then you could choose sheets to send to specific users, which is a really cool feature, especially if you're doing, if you have a lot of departments that have to do budgets or, that need to know what their monthly financials are. This would definitely be an option that you would want to look into. The distribution from Excel can be either Excel or PDF or HTML. Excel and PDF are the most popular options for this. We also have an option to publish a file out to your network. And so same options here with the formatting. We've got Excel, HTML, and PDF. We can browse out to the network and find a folder to put this in, give it a file name, and then you can once you've run your reports and you're ready to distribute them and you've got your instructions set up, you can go into the select distribution instructions, choose your instruction. I have this particular one set to send the entire workbook. I click OK, and I click send now, and it will publish my report out to a folder that I've chosen, which I put on. A lot of screens open. Which I put on the desktop, and I just ran this report, sample company financials, which is just a copy of my sample company financial report. So that would be available to users on your network. There are more advanced options for distribution. We can actually set reports up to run automatically and use the Windows Task Scheduler to distribute them out to, I've got clients that distribute out to FTP, that email out reports every night at midnight. So you do have a lot of distribution options with Sage Intelligence, and they're all fairly easy to set up. The last thing I want to talk about is consolidations, running consolidated reports. If you own the connector module and you have multiple companies and need to run consolidated reports, Sage Intelligence does allow you to do that. They've got some built-in consolidated report examples that you can look at. And this functions, the underlying sub-reports or union reports that build your actual Sage Intelligence report is where you define your databases that you want included in your report. You do have to open Sage Intelligence in each of the companies that you want to run for. And then you can come into this, you can click the ellipses and it will give you a list of companies that have had Sage Intelligence opened, and you can select from that list. I'm going to select our sample companies here, and I've already set that for, I've already set my consolidation list for this particular report. So I'm just going to go run this.
This would be a great time to ask any questions into the question queue. So if you've got questions, reminder, put them into the question queue. I don't have Jeopardy music, so it takes a second to run this one up.
Yes, this one takes a couple minutes. There's a lot to it. So actually, it's taken less than a minute. We're almost done. So this report's set up a little bit differently. It has, so we have SAM limited data in column E, and then we've got the SAM Inc. data in column F. And then I've just done a simple total Excel formula to add the two columns together. I can, if I wanted to look at this data, and this is true across these Sage Intelligence financial reports, if I want to drill down to my data, I can right click on a cell with a Sage Intelligence formula in it. That's very important, and choose drill down. And that will open up a drill down of the data that makes up the balance that I see on the screen. Into a separate sheet, and so I can see what makes up that balance. Then if I wanted to look at the SAM Inc. data, I can drill that down as well, and that will open up. If I want to look at the detail on a particular amount within that drill down, I can drill down yet again and get to the detail, the GL detail of that account. This is the coolest feature. It keeps you, you can see your GL detail without having to go back into Sage. You can get it directly from these reports. And again, you do need to be on a on a cell with a Sage Intelligence formula in it to get that information. If you're not, it will tell you that it'll yell at you and tell you that you need to be on a you can't drill down from here. So that's I think I've covered everything that I wanted to look at. I know Sean's got a few other items he wants to show, so I'm gonna if you all don't have any questions, I'm gonna throw it back over to Sean to finish up.
Perfect. So I'll go ahead and take control here again. I got a couple of questions in the queue, and maybe we want to answer those as we transition this back to me. Let's say okay, and make me a presenter. So a couple questions here. My sample report shows report design license required. What do I need to do? So let's talk a little bit about licensing. It was actually the first thing on my list to talk about is licensing. So if you're on a Sage 300C or Sage 300 Cloud subscription license, you get one report manager license included with your subscription. If that license is already consumed, then you may get an error message like the one that says, hey, you need a license. Or if you are on a perpetual license, you also get that same error message. So it'll default install it, but you may not have the licenses. So if you're not on the subscription model, then I would encourage you to talk to us about converting to that. There's no additional significant cost to do that from Sage perspective. So we want to make sure that we're talking to people before Sage changes their mind and starts charging for moving people off perpetual. So we want to make sure that happens. So that's likely what it is that you're probably on a perpetual license, or somebody else has already consumed the license and it's not available to you for you to use. Now, you can get additional report manager licenses, and let's go ahead and I'm going to pop into my server here, and I've got Sage Intelligence open as well. Actually, I'm going to go back into Sage and talk a little bit about licenses here. So Vicki was talking about the report manager, and there's a license required for that. If you're not building reports, but you're consuming reports, you can buy a license with the report viewer. So if you've got a bunch of folks that are going to consume reports, that's what the viewer is for. And then the connector is a separate license for consolidations, for connecting to external databases, multiplying different or adding different tables together to produce an ad hoc report. It was the things you would do in a connector. Okay, and then of course you got your license manager, where you can get the license from Net at Work, and we can help you apply the license so you can consume the data. There's a specific question here around an ActiveX component. I will take that as an action item. We'll follow up after that. I'm not sure exactly what that is off the top of my head. So, all right. So one of the other things I wanted to cover was looking at the report. So Vicki looked at the report. So I've got a report that's open here. So I'm going to go into my demonstration report, and we talked about distribution. One of the things that is also available for those of you that are not Excel gurus, that Excel scared you a little bit as Vicki was going through it. She's a self-proclaimed geek in financial statements. She loves doing this stuff, and that, it's not for everybody. So there is a what we call a WYSIWYG editor, ability to manage layouts that's built into this. It's called a layout manager or a layout generator that's here. And I can go into here and I can take an existing layout that's there. I can edit it. I can copy it. So I could copy it and just say, I don't know, say demo copy of that. And in here, what this allows me to do, I'll maximize this out, is it allows me to use a very graphical interface. Say across the top, I've got all of my different columns that are going to show up in the reports. In this case, actuals, prior year actuals, and then a variance calculation. And then down the left-hand side, I've got all of my, in this case, income statement type formulas that are here. And then I've just got my account information, my number and my account description. And then basic layout stuff. So the things that you saw in the Excel spreadsheet, such as the company and the year and the currency and all that stuff, is laid out here. So how do I then edit any of these things? So if I look at my text column, that's this information here. And my columns are really the columns across the top. So they predefined everything that's available in the database. And so I can see that all my blue is what has been selected. So in this case, it's an actual versus prior. If I wanted to go in and add in a budget, I could select budget and drag it to where I wanted it to show up. And I could add budgets to every one of these periods and move where I wanted. I could also go in and add calculations. I could add spacers to make it look good. So if I don't have something in here, I could create a calculated field. I could store it within this layout design, and then I can simply add it to the report. I can also do that in pure Excel too, but if you do it this way, then you don't have to reinvent it. You've actually put it into your instance of Sage Intelligence. The other thing that's kind of cool with this, in addition to the columns, I've got the rows that are here. I can, again, add calculations to the rows, and all of my typical income statement stuff is there, as well as calculated rows that I may have put into the financial statement. So everything I can do is very visual. I'm not doing it in Excel. It's pretty straightforward. The other thing that I really love that's a huge time saver is the concept of row sets. So in here in row sets, if I edit the income statement row set, what this is it gives me a starting point for what my income statement report should look like. And I can assign a row set to any income statement report. In this case, we're using the account groups, and you can say that account group 140 is going to be where my revenue accounts are. However, I also know that my revenue accounts, most of them start with a 40, and I'm not sure why that's not updating. Usually it does. All right, I'll have to come back to that one, but normally that's going to populate with and preview any cells that are there. And probably need to select that. All right, anyway, I'll come back to that. So you can go in here and you can define these row sets. And what this does, if you add a chart of account, what happens very often in FR, for example, if you add a chart of account and you don't go into the financial statement and go in and add it there as well, it's going to be excluded from your financial report, which is not what you want. If you use these row sets by simply including the account group or using a rule set that says, show me everything with a 40 is my revenue account, it'll go out and pick anything that meets that criteria and insert it automatically into a financial statement. So this is a huge time saver, prevents you from making mistakes. And I'll say, actually, say yes. And I can do that for income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, that kind of stuff, different sets of GL sets that I want to track. So in this case, I go back to my layout design. Once I've got in and added the design the way I wanted it, in this case, all I've really done is added the budget and just kind of explained some things I can generate. From here, I'm on a blank sheet. It's going to go out and, okay, that's because all right. Of course, it blows up in the middle of a demo, but that's going to generate a financial statement much like this has. So obviously we collaborate each other. Vicky, you were in one version, I was in the other. So in this case, I've got a budget that shows up here, and this is what it looks like. Now, again, you're in Excel, so if you don't like the way that this looks, well, you're in Excel. So if you want to add, dollar signs to it, well, go ahead and add dollar signs. You can do whatever you want and make it look whatever you want. One of the other things that I love about this product that's a huge time saver is once you make all of these edits, whether the edits you made in this task pane or the edits that Vicky walked you through, is when you come back into the report designer and you save it as an Excel template, any of the formatting changes that you made, any of the formulas you inserted are automatically saved with the report. So when you run the report the next time, you don't have to format it again. It's automatically formatted. That formatting is saved, and away you go. So half the time, if you're doing manual financial statements, you'll notice that every time you're doing it manually, you're spending more time formatting and making it look nice than you are just pulling that data in manually through a trial balance. In this case, you don't have to format it but once. You get it done once, you save it the way you want it, and then you just run the report. Okay? So the question is, where do you find BI tools? So in this case, once you install Sage Intelligence, it installs an add-on. So it's an add-in, and it'll show up here under BI tools. If it doesn't show up here in BI tools, let us know. It's a pretty simple thing to make sure it's installed, and then when you install it, you make sure the report designer add-in is present. Once it's present, the BI tools tab will appear. It doesn't just appear within Excel. It needs to be added within the add-in process, which typically happens when you install it, but doesn't always. Excel can be a little bit finicky that way, but I would say 95% of the time it shows up when you install it. Okay, so that's that. So the other thing I wanted to kind of show is What are the alternatives? So those of you that mentioned I'm still doing it manually, hopefully you found a way that this is going to make your life a little bit easier doing it this way. Other options that are there that I'll highlight are Sage Intelligence. So Sage Intelligence is, let me back up, Sage Enterprise Intelligence is another BI tool that's out there and available. It runs in a browser. It also has a whole bunch of pre-configured reports, but obviously it has financial reports that are there. So in this case, I've got a command center, I've got a report center. I've already run out a few of the reports that are here just to save a little bit of time. So you can produce income statement, you can produce balance sheets, you can produce cash flow reports, all within this type of a tool as well. And it does also have an Excel plugin similar to what you saw with Sage Intelligence, and it pulls data directly into the Sage Enterprise Intelligence Excel plugin for your income statements, your balance sheets, your cash flow, your consolidated type of reports are all there as well. This is a separate license. The reason people will do this is that they've got larger data sets. One of the challenges that Sage Intelligence has, not specifically for financial reports, but more for operational report, if you've got a large volume of data, you're pulling it into Excel. And Excel as a data warehouse isn't always a good fit. Too much data will slow Excel down. This has got a built-in data warehouse. It's great for consolidation. It's great for quickly swapping between databases. So I've quickly swapped between SAM Inc. and SAM Ltd, and I've now got an income statement on this side, and then I could create a consolidated company that does it that way. So there's a lot of functionality in this that does financials, but then it does a heck of a lot more than financials. It's got a whole bunch of dashboards built into it. So if I wanted to look at sales dashboards and look at a sales manager dashboard and all those things, and all the KPIs that I want to track, this is a very visual tool that's kind of a step up from Sage Intelligence. Okay, and so I'll leave you with that. And then the third option that I'll show you, just share with you, is a product called Data Self. And I'm just going to drag it onto the screen. So Data Self, again, is another visual tool. It's based off the principles of Tableau. And if I wanted to look at a P&L, there's a whole bunch of dashboards that are here. But if I wanted to look at a P&L and I wanted to do a Q1 comparison for the last 2 years, I could basically say, okay, show me 2019 and 2020. I don't want all years. I just want to see the first quarter, and I want to see a variance percentage of my P&L, and I'm going to apply it. And so as I choose those things, it builds that out very, very quickly, and I can see, at a very quick glance, and by just choosing a couple of options, what my P&L looks like. So this is pretty strong tool. It's a hosted product, and this is basically a rental that you can buy on a monthly basis, and you've got access again to a whole bunch of dashboards, your P&Ls that are there, and security does apply as well. So it gives you an idea of the different tools that are out there, and again, we're trying to just encourage folks to look at the next generation of BI tools and financial reporting tools, as FR has a limited lifespan, and I want to make sure you don't get stuck when that lifespan ends. So with that, I'm going to quickly go back to my PowerPoint and see if there's any questions. And there's questions in there around, and you send more info about enterprise intelligence and Data Self. So yes, I'll take that as an action item and send that out after the session. So the other thing here I've got, let's go here. We've got our live look already looking here. So if you've got any other questions, we've got a few minutes left in the hour to make sure that we get any of those questions answered. If you've got questions in the queue that I did not answer, we will follow up and see if we can't get answers to those questions. Some of them are very specific, so I want to make sure that we address those as well. So if you've got questions, by all means, throw them into the question queue. I'll stick around for a few more minutes, but I want to thank everybody for attending, and hopefully you learned a little bit about what your options are for financial reports. If you're new to financial reports, hopefully you got to see that. If you want to take it to the next level, hopefully we were able to show you that as well. So with that, I will call it a day. I've got another session tomorrow where we're going to focus on, I believe, talk about bank rec. So you want to learn more about bank recs, we've got another session tomorrow if you haven't signed up for it. Until next time, we will see you on the next webinar. Thanks, everyone.